Hi, Underground Queen. Wait, girl, I haven't seen you in a minute. How you doing? Hey, girl. How are you? Hey, darling. I haven't seen you in a minute. I'm just putting in the information for our guests. Hi, Jamila. Hi. Hi, Michelle. I know I'm a bit early, but well, no, it's 12 o'clock now. Okay, let me send you the invite to come in. Wait. Michelle is saying that I'm unable to invite you. I don't know why. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming in. I'm waiting for my guest to join. I sent her the invite. I don't know if she got it, right? She's been invited. Today we're going to talk about resilience after childbirth trauma. We're talking to Michelle Mcdonald about her experience with amniotic fluid embolism, AFE. And this experience happened to her after giving birth to her son. She nearly died. Yeah. So she wrote a book, Victory Cry. Yeah, these are all my sticky notes. You're lucky that I marked up the whole book I'm putting down here. So we're gonna talk to her about that. I'm waiting for her to join us. All right, we'll try it there again. Yeah, so we're gonna be talking to her about that. I'm just waiting for her to come through. It's spring. So Michelle, there's no link. I just sent you an invite via here. So let me try it again. An invite should have come up on the screen and you just press click and accept. Let me try it again. Hold on. Okay, Michelle, so you should see an invite show up on the screen and you just click it. I don't know if she's not seeing the invitation. Hi, Chantal. How you doing? Hmm. There you are.
Oh,
Hi.
hi.
You are hilarious.
I know. Could I not do this on my computer? I have to do it on my phone?
Yes.
Oh,
IG doesn't come up on your laptop or your computer. I should say the line. You have to do it on your phone. I
oh,
should have
okay.
told you that. That's my apologies for that.
I know. Okay.
Give me a little more volume on your end.
What was that?
Give me some more volume on your end.
Okay. Okay, it's up to all. Can you hear me better?
Yes, yes. All right, let me turn mine up.
Sorry about that delay.
That's
All
all right.
right. How you doing?
I really should have told you that because another guest one time, he's like, Simone, I'm trying to come up. I'm like, where are you? She said, I'm on my laptop. I'm like, it doesn't happen on your laptop.
Laptop, yeah.
You
Okay.
have to be on your phone. But that's
Yeah.
okay. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm
I have
doing good.
Okay, good. I have to drink water during these sessions because I get really thirsty.
Oh, okay. Make sure it's not cold water because your mouth kinds of tends to
Yeah.
dry up
If
when
I
it's
don't like cold water, I drink room temperature.
room temperature. Yeah.
Yeah, the cold water, it goes through my body and it like sends my body in like to a mini shock.
Okay. I learned the
Yeah.
hard way. I was talking one time, making
Mhm.
a presentation, and
Mhm.
I was thirsty. I said, "Let me drink some water just before I go on." And sure, I drank some cold water.
Uh-huh.
And at one point during the presentation, I was like,
Oh my
because it was
God.
so cold. I don't know. It does
Cold.
something to you. Yeah. It should be warm or room temperature. Yeah. I learned my
Yeah, I
lesson.
prefer room temperature. Yeah. But thanks for coming.
Thanks for having
You
me.
know, yes, of course. And I thank you for the book and the beautiful message you put inside. I'm not going to share with everybody what you wrote.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
yeah, your book now has in like dog ears. And I made my little notes in preparation for our conversation. It's a
Yeah.
very well written piece.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. You
Hmm.
are an amazing writer,
Thank you.
and there were a lot of affirmations in there
Hmm.
that I took out for it that, I would encourage you to, make a separate book or like um, a digital product where folks could like download. Of course, they pay for it, but download these affirmations. I mean, the book was amazing.
Yeah.
And outside of you discussing your trauma, anyone going through trauma, not just childbirth, um, could get stuff from this book.
Hmm.
Could get a lot of life lessons from this book. So even for me, um, I've never given birth or have been pregnant, I still got a lot out of it,
Okay,
right?
good.
In regard to how to overcome and what recovery should look like, and
Hmm.
giving yourself a litmus test along the way as to
Hmm.
test just exactly where you are in your recovery.
Hmm.
So let's start from the beginning. The book
Okay.
is named Victory Cry: Living a Resilient Life After a Birth Trauma. And in it, you talked about you experience Amniotic Fluid Embolism, AFE.
Mhm.
Explain to us what this is.
Okay, so AFE, the acronym for amniotic fluid embolism, it is a very rare, life-threatening, and unexpected birth condition. This happens either during or after delivery. And what happens is like an allergic reaction to the amniotic fluid getting into your bloodstream, mostly in the circular system. And what would happen is that, well, on a regular basis, amniotic fluid does get into your system, where you have all the fetal debris, all the cells, the hair and everything from the baby. But it's a very, very few people that experience this condition. And I was one of them. Okay? Now, it has two phases to it. The first phase is a respiratory failure, which could lead to cardiac arrest. And the second phase is the hemorrhagic phase, where you start to bleed at the site of the womb. So I was planning to have a natural birth. Obviously, because of what happened, I had to get a C-section. So I started bleeding at the site of the womb. And then what happened, the medical term is called disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. Short term is DIC. And that is where the blood is not clotting anymore. So it is just pretty much just pouring out, okay? And then you have to get blood transfusion and different blood products. I needed to get about 30 units of blood and blood
units,
products.
yeah. Yeah, I read the report. That's a lot.
So, yeah. So
were you aware of this? Were you aware of AFE during your pregnancy? Were you aware of that something like this could happen?
No, I had never heard of this before. I wasn't told by my doctor. I didn't hear anybody else having it. And I don't even think that me being pregnant at the time would want to hear about something like this, to tell you the truth. I don't know what I would do with this information, to be honest with you, because it is something I wouldn't like to hear. I think it is, is information that is okay. I hear and I empathize. I'm sorry that it happened, but I'm going to be hoping that nothing like this happens to me, because we all expecting to have a wonderful birth. Is the most exciting time in a woman's life, and you're hoping that everything goes great, and you just see the bundle of joy and you're holding and you're crying, all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Are you comfortable sharing exactly what happened with your situation? Are you okay with that?
Yes, I am. And that's what has gotten me here today through my healing. So, so I went in, it was July 31st to get my final checkup, because I decided that we're going to go have the baby at 39 weeks, because everything was fine up to that point. He was in the downward position, so everything was fine. So the July 31st, we went in and she induced me. Nothing was happening. So I went home and came back the following day, which was the 1st of August. And checked into the hospital, got hooked up to all the machines and everything. And they were just monitoring me. I was only about 2 centimeters dilated, so everything was happening pretty slow. And then later in the afternoon, early afternoon, well, my mom and my husband at the time was in the room, and my mom was wondering, like, are you going to have the epidural? It might be a lot of pain. Can you handle the pain? All this stuff. I eventually
and your mom is a retired nurse. My
mom is a retired nurse. Yeah. So thank God that she was there throughout the whole thing. But so I decided to get the epidural. I had the epidural, and again, still waiting. Nothing much was happening. And then I started to get a ringing in my ear, and like my whole body, like I just felt something different, right? And I was like, okay, we need to like call the doctor now because something isn't right. And then I just fell back on the bed, and everything from here on out was what I was told, because I pretty much went unconscious for the next 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So so when I fell back on the bed, obviously the doctors came in. That was the last thing I saw. I saw the doctors rushing in, and then I fell back on the bed and I went unconscious. So at that time, a code blue was called, an emergency code blue was called on me, because I started to go into the first phase that I just told you about, rapid respiratory, going into cardiac arrest. So they had to rush me off into the emergency. And then emergency code pink was called on my son because he started to lose oxygen. So they had to do an emergency C-section to get him out. And then he was fine after a little while. And then an emergency omega was called on me shortly after that. And that was the phase 2 that I just spoke about, the DIC, where I started to bleed from right there where they did the C-section, and the blood wasn't clotting. So they had to get 30 units of blood and blood products to get me through this whole ordeal. And I was pretty much unconscious for the whole time. When I woke up, it would have been the following morning, probably early afternoon. My whole body was swollen. I had a trachea tube in my mouth, so I couldn't talk. Nobody was in the room of itself at the time, so I was kind of disoriented, not knowing what had happened. And then the doctors came in and they started to explain to me what it was that I had. And I was just sitting there, you know, waiting, but it was just like, I wasn't even sure. I was so disoriented. It was like, I was trying to recall why I was here in the first place. And then that came to me. And then it felt like they were taking so long to tell me if Eli was alive or had passed, that it was like, you know, when you want the information so quickly, but it's not coming to you fast enough.
Fast enough, yeah.
Yeah. So, so they just explained to me what it was that I went through and what had happened. They told me that Eli was fine. He was doing so much better and everything. And I just wanted to see him. But I was in ICU for 3 days. So normally they don't let the babies come up to ICU. And I just kept writing, because I can talk. I just kept writing like, please, could I see him? I just want to see him. They eventually brought him up, and they were just rest him here for like it felt like 2 seconds. They just rest him here. And then they took him away. Anyway, yeah, so I was in the hospital for about 9 days during that time, because they had to run a lot of different tests and things like that. And then I went home after that to recover.
In the book, when you get to the part about this, discussing your recovery, you mentioned 3 stages. You talked about reflection, finding a new rhythm, and a resilient life.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with these 3 stages? And what was the process for each stage for you?
Those, at the time, I could say a lot has happened, because it's been 6 years now. My son is 6 years. It's 6 years now since this has happened. And at that particular time, because a lot has changed and I've grown, I've learned a lot of things in my healing journey since that time. But at that particular time, the reflection came about, was really what that was, reflection. I spent so much time there really trying to think about what had happened, what just transpired. There were so many different stories going on in my head. From I started to think about the frivolous things like how was the house left when I went through the door that morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, to go to the hospital? What was the last thing that I ate? What was I doing? Things like that. And then I started to really think about, because when I got home, and while I was, home recovering, I searched and I found, because I wanted to find out more about what this AFE was, I started and I found the AFE support group on Facebook. And I was so thankful to find them, because it was just like, I immediately felt like at least I wasn't alone
Yeah.
in this. There were other survivors. But within that group, they started to share about other women, because at the time I didn't know that. I didn't know that other women didn't make it. So they started to show and share with you other AFE stories. And I noticed that there were other mothers who didn't make it, babies didn't make it. And that put everything in total perspective. It's just like, I survived this, and then I started to get what's called survivor's guilt. Like, I started to feel guilty that I survived.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, I read that. I remember that.
And then it was just like, what is next for me? What do I do now with this? Right? I'm so thankful that I survived, like, everything. All the doctors who were supposed to be, at the hospital at the time were there, saved my life. I'm so thankful to God, for saving my life. But what do I do now? How can I just wanted to scream to the mountaintops to let everybody know that this can happen. And this is where the birth of the book came from. And this was all during my reflection. And how could I now be a voice for these women who didn't know what was coming? Because I would have been in the same, in the same boat, and would have passed, not knowing, leaving their families, wondering what happened. Healthy mothers going in, and in some cases, this can happen after your birth, right? So I vividly remember one of the survivors. Well, she's passed away now, but she actually came back into room with her baby, and she was there with her family. And then suddenly she started to feel sick, like something wasn't right. They had to rush her off, and she didn't make it.
Wow.
Right? So it is something that can happen, as I said, either during your delivery, or it can happen shortly after. And it's things like that that just hurt my heart, to think that the family is just left wondering, what is this? Like, how could this happen? And we don't know what causes it or how to prevent it. Right? So it's things like this that put a lot of things in perspective while I was reflecting. And the rhythm was starting to do a little bit of work and getting out there, putting my book out. I promoted my book both here. I'm in Canada. I went down to Barbados as well, and promoted the book down there. And I spoke in people's homes to tell people about this, and I had an interview with some other people as well, and just to get the rhythm going, just to help me to see how I can get back on my feet, what I can do to be a voice for these women who didn't make it, and I will continue to be a voice for them, to let people know about what this is,
Wow. I just want to let my audience know that if you have any questions for Michelle, please feel free to put them in your comments, and I would read them to her. Do you think that, because from reading your book, you also say it doesn't necessarily matter. It is not. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
This can happen to you. your socioeconomic background, the doctor you go to, it doesn't matter. It's just something that can happen. Even though it will be traumatic, I could only imagine for a pregnant woman to hear this kind of information. Don't you think it is still something that the doctor should discuss? Well, listen, these are some of the factors that can happen, because I'm sure there's some other things. And again, I'm just speaking from somebody who's not gone through that process. But do you think it's something that should be discussed with the parent as something, as a possibility that can happen? Even though it is a very sensitive topic to discuss with a woman who's pregnant, think, oh my God, this could happen to me, this could happen to my kid. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I really think it is something that needs to be discussed. I guess it needs to be discussed in a, not like in depth or anything, because it's more so for the doctors to know what it looks like when it's happening, because it's extremely time sensitive.
Yeah.
But more in a case where you reassure the patient that if anything goes wrong, for example, AFE, this is something that we will look for, because there are certain signs that you can have before. Not everybody have the signs. You can have fetal distress before. You can have chills. I'm chilly right now in my house.
You're in Canada.
Yeah. No, it's spring and it's supposed to be 13 outside. But anyway,
right.
I'm still in Canada, right?
Yeah.
No, but there were certain signs that you have before. Not everybody experienced those signs and symptoms in advance, because I didn't have any of them, right? Some people did. Some people just felt different within their body. Most women know what, that something isn't right. And then you call the doctor to know, say, for them to look into it a little bit further. But in my case, the surgeon that was taken over from my OB, she had seen this before in her residency. That shows you how rare it is. So the doctors are aware of it. They go through their training and everything, but because it's so rare, they don't see it that often, right?
Okay.
But again, I was so fortunate to have her in the room. So when she came into the room and she saw the state that I was in, she immediately knew what was going on, and she knew the urgency of it. So as much as you say, do you tell the patients, you have to reassure the patients that, I know what this is, I will be looking out for it, or something along those lines, and not to worry, put them at ease.
Right.
But to communicate.
Go ahead. No, continue.
I was just saying, to communicate with the patient in that way.
Okay. You used writing as your spiritual wellness tool to move you through overcoming this trauma. Was there anything else that you employed during that time, like maybe yoga or meditation, or was there anything else along with the writing and getting this book out there that you used to help you overcome this trauma?
A lot of that came after, because I felt when I wrote the book has been out now, I think about 3 years. I felt like there was an urgency at that time. Like everybody just needs to know what this is and be aware of it. As I went on, I did a lot more of personal development and growth for myself. And that's where a lot of those things came into play. Well, I was doing yoga during my pregnancy and a little bit after. Mm-hmm. But one of the main questions that really started the trajectory of my healing was my coach asked me, what does a healed Michelle look like? What does a healed Michelle look like? And I really had to stop and think about that for a while, because I was so caught up in the stories that I have been telling myself over and over for the first couple of years, feeling bad, feeling guilty, you know, all the different things, like what would have happened, what would Eli be doing, who would he be with, like every possible question. I just kept beating up myself, going over, rehashing, repeating the same questions all the time. And it took me a couple of days, to be honest, to really sit down and think about, what does that look like? Where do I want to be? So that I needed to really pull myself away from the stories that I kept repeating in my head, to start looking at, what do I want to be doing? What does a healed Michelle look like?
Mm-hmm.
And it is what I'm doing right now here with you and moving forward, to be able to stand on my story and share this story and share my healing journey with other women who have gone through, and other mothers who have gone through a healing, to let them know that this is possible, that they can get past this and move. But they have to start looking out at the future. What does a healed, what do you look like after being healed? Because if you stay stuck in your story,
Sorry, I missed that last part.
If you stay stuck in your story, you will stay stuck in your story. Now, that is not in any tensions of undermining having to go for counseling or therapy or things like that. Those things are very important and part of the process. It works for some people, it doesn't work for everybody. But you have to find what works for you, so that you can, you know, heal yourself and go through.
Right. We have Chicky B. She's asking, is this a case that you find will happen more with women of color, or it doesn't discriminate?
Specifically, I don't know the statistics for women of color, but really and truly, it starts, I'll break it down for you. It starts out with, and the statistics that I have are for the US only. So if you think about it, 4 million women give birth every year in the US. 50,000 of those women will have severe life-threatening maternal conditions. Mm-hmm. And of those 50,000, 100 will experience AFE, of which 40 to 60% of them will be fatal.
What?
Yeah. Now, it doesn't matter of the age. Mm-hmm. So far, it doesn't matter of the race, but I don't know if statistics have shown anything different, that it is higher in women of color or not. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter of your birth, like if you want to give a natural birth or cesarean, and it doesn't matter of your birth order either. So you could have had, there's a lady and her daughter that passed away, and she was giving birth at home for her 7 kids.
Wow.
The 8th kid, she did not make it. When you hear stories like these, this is just so heart-wrenching. And to think of the families that are left behind mourning and grieving. That's why it's so important for us to have the research, to do the research, to raise money, to do the research. Because when you think that you don't know what causes this or how to prevent it, just that alone is just so scary. And you see the statistics. And that's how rare it is. But, you know, you think, like, is it really that rare, or is it that they're not being reported correctly or properly?
Yeah.
Right? And we don't know about it.
Yeah, we know how it is for women of color here in the US and the healthcare service. Yeah. Especially when it comes to childbirth. That's a whole other topic. But I would not be surprised if the majority of those numbers of the outcome being fatal are women of color. Because we are always at the bottom of the totem pole. But that's another show. I bookmarked, like I mentioned, I bookmarked things. So I want to go through a few things that you mentioned that stuck with me. On page 34, so when you guys purchase the book, you will know where what I'm talking about. You said, you've heard my story. Now replace the content of my story with your own traumatic experience. Include all the details you remember, including your emotions and the sensory effects that go along with your story. This may be painful, but owning your trauma is a necessary step towards recovery. Owning your trauma is a necessary step towards recovery. I like to say, sit in it. Feel it. Let it come through you and come out of you. Because if you avoid it, that creates even more problems. And I want to repeat that piece. Owning your trauma is necessary, a necessary step towards recovery. That's a very, to sit with that and understand that the only way you can move forward is to own what is hurting you. You know,
I had lots.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I had lots of days crying, even while sharing my story. And that was part of the healing process. There were many things that were part of my healing process, but sharing my story was one of them.
And I encourage a lot of women to do that, you know, but some women, some folks are not ready.
No, and that's okay. And that's okay. Yeah, they have to know that that's okay. That's okay, because when you're ready, you will share. You will share at a point. There are no tears coming out of my eyes. So I've done a lot of healing. When I first started talking about this, you can get me. I needed to go there literally with tissues because I knew I would be wiping forevermore. And I had to stop. I just had to stop because I was just getting overwhelmed, and it was making the audience or the people watching me feel uncomfortable. Right? But in order to, and that's another part of it, in order to do that, and you could even sit down and write it out, all the stories that you're saying in your head, you can put it in a positive way, because we know how our subconscious mind holds on to a lot of our thoughts and make them evidence, because they bring them back up every time that you run that thought in your head. The evidence have to be back it up. And for sure, your subconscious is there to protect you and keep you safe. So they're going to keep showing you the evidence. So the more you can change that pattern and put it in a positive way and keep repeating it, it will eventually change when that thought comes up.
But not only that, if you don't release it, it can also show up in other ways. It can start to affect your health. You get bad headaches. You know, your skin starts to break out. You can't sleep at night. You're always tired. So it has to get to a point where you recognize, okay, I have to deal with this because I'm living a life of destruction. And if we want to go to the extreme, folks then try to numb the pain with drugs, with alcohol, with hurting themselves. So what I love about this book, and I encourage you guys to order it, Victory Cry by Michelle Mcdonald. And once I post the interview here, when we're finished, I'll put all the information and also reach out to Michelle, because she's in Canada, you know, how you can purchase the book. But it is so important that we recognize that if we don't deal with the trauma, it will show in other ways and affect our lives. Whereas sometimes, you know, there may be no recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get ill.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sickness. You know, you destroy relationships with your children, with your spouses, with your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to read another excerpt from the book.
Yeah.
You have everything you need right inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to tap into it, and you will see how bright your light will shine.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I speak about all the time. You have to start from in here.
Yeah.
The healing has to start from inside.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point to understand that's where you needed to go first to start your stages?
Because everything outside wasn't working.
Was it working?
It was like, yes, I was.
Nothing else would
It
work.
was working. Nothing else was working. So again, I needed to sit with myself and go back to reflection. Be still.
That's still.
That stillness is key. That stillness is key.
Yep.
Prayed a lot. And you'll see at the back of the book, I have some, because I followed, at the time I followed Joyce Myers. So a lot of, between Joyce and Joelle, I would just listen to their sermons, and it just have that pour into me. And it just did something for my soul. And through all of that, it was just a slow moving for me to be still and to listen to what's inside of me, what brings me joy, as small as it is, and just try to feed off of those good vibes, those good things, slowly. Even my son, even having my son in the early days, like even when we got home during the first couple of months, I couldn't do anything, but I would just watch him. I was too weak to lift him up. He was just on the bed and I was just there, you know, and I would just watch him. I would smile. It would be frustrating sometimes because I can hold him, you know.
This was your first child.
And this
like
was my
you
first
had
child.
Everything in your head how it was going to be.
Going to go.
With
Exactly.
your first child, your firstborn, and then a son.
Yes.
You know how y'all Caribbean women feel about y'all sons. My mother used to call my brother her only boy child. This is my only boy child. She got 2 girls, but the emphasis was her only boy child. And his nickname was Governor.
Oh, he ruled things.
Yes, his nickname was Governor. So from as a toddler, my brother's nickname was Governor. You ready to eat? I'm like, what the hell? Like my head as a kid, I was like, this doesn't sound right. But you can't make the connection, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But that energy is now coming to affect her in different ways. But anyhow, you know, but for you not to be able to make the connection you expected to make with him, but just you still made the connection, because although you're lying there with him, you're smiling with him, and y'all, you know, exchanging energy the best way you could.
Yeah. And then as he grew up, you know, you just see him and you're watching him grow, and he's, you know, being a smarty pants and all the funny things that come out of kids' mouths, you know, you make you laugh. All of that is part of the healing. You know, all of these things, all of those little things, all those little moments is all part of the healing, because you're so thankful, first of all, that you've been able to survive such a traumatic experience. But at the same time, you've given life to someone else. And now you're watching that person grow. You know, and it's bringing you joy and laughter and, you know, the funny things they do, you know, all that stuff is great.
And I love his name too.
Eli.
Eli. I love it. Would you share the story with him when he gets older and he's able to understand?
Yes. Yes. He sees the book. He sees himself on the book. He's right here next to me.
Uh-huh.
I told him, say hello.
Let me say, hi. How are you?
Good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely share the information with him as he gets older and can understand more. But right now, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I understand that. I want
Yeah.
to go to another piece in the book. This book again, Victory Cry by Michelle Mcdonald. Get the book. It's not a long read at all, but it's full of great nuggets of affirmations that you can use in your daily life. Here, there's a piece that stuck with me as well. Recovery is a process and a time to be gentle with ourselves.
Yeah.
Not only gentle with ourselves, but be patient with the process.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient with ourselves. Be patient with our healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big challenge for women, especially women of color.
Mm-hmm.
We've positioned ourselves to say, okay, this needs to move quick. I'm guilty of that. Huh? So let me just be transparent.
Yeah.
We want things to move quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that doesn't help the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. And we should compare our process with others as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you gentle with yourself, Misha?
Of course not. Come on. Of course not. I was one of the people that I need to get this over with and get back to normal.
Oh yeah, we've had that some discussions
Hurry
over
up.
that.
Yes, hurry up. Let's go. Yes, and to be honest with you, it is a process. And even though I have gotten through quite a bit of the healing, I still have a long way to go. So don't think it's a one and done, or that when you feel better, it is over. Because I'll share with you another experience that I had since then, because I was always concerned about triggers, things that would trigger me. And one of the things was going back to the hospital, because I wanted to go back shortly after I felt better physically, to go back and thank the doctors and nurses that were there for me. I tried so many times, but I could not get out of the car to go into the hospital. But about 2 years ago, I think it was in 2019, I had a very close friend who had a stroke, and she went into the hospital. And Simone, I thought nothing about it. I just wanted to go to see her. I went into the hospital fine. So I was sitting in the waiting room waiting. Her family was there, and the husband and the kids was there. And it was time to go in. The doctor said, okay, the family can come in now to see her. So we were going like just a few at a time. And I went with the husband and the son. And, as soon as I was walking down the hall, sometimes in a hospital, the lights are low. Mm-hmm. I'm walking down the hospital. No, I was fine. Like, I didn't even think twice about it. I am walking down the hallway now to the room. I see the lights are kind of dim. I am hearing the beep, 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 beep from the machines. I'm hearing the nurses kind of whispering at the station there. I'm hearing clinging and all these different things that are reminding me of when I was in the hospital. And I could feel my body. Now I'm being triggered now by all of these different sounds and sights and things, smell even. I finally walked up to the bed, and she had all the tubes in and everything. And I was just frozen. Honestly, I was just frozen. And I was just like, I couldn't do this. I just couldn't do it. So I apologize. I'm sorry, but I just have to go. I'm so sorry. And I just immediately, I left straight out of the hospital, down the elevator, out to the door, into the car, and I was shaking. Obviously, I figured, okay, I guess I was triggered. Now, I don't know what this looked like or how to do this. I just had to sit there and I had to calm myself down. I started breathing. You know, the breathing, 5, in 5, hold 5, out 5, just breathing. And then I started to have to talk to myself. I had to start telling myself, I am fine, because it was like taking me back, lying down on the bed, right? So I had to start talking to myself. Everything is fine. I'm okay. I am protected now. I am healed. I am doing a lot better. And I had to keep repeating that over and over and over to calm myself down. And I find that whenever anything like that happens to me, I have to change the narrative in my head to something that is positive and reassure myself, like, you're fine. Why are you worrying? Everything is okay. You know, you're protected. God is protecting you. You know, you're healed. You're going to come out of this. You're doing okay. And just keep repeating it over and over and over and over again until you get, you know, your body calms down. And then I was able to leave, but I never went back. I was just so scared because I didn't know what it was going to be like.
Yeah. For this entire interview, we are now, it's now 12:50. You have 10 minutes. I've written here 3 spiritual wellness tools you use for your healing. And again, I just want to say that I'm speaking with Mcdonald, and we're talking about resilience after childbirth trauma. This is her book, Victory Cry. I encourage all of you to purchase the book. Although with the book, she's talking about her childbirth, the trauma she experienced after giving birth to her son, there is still a lot of inspirational nuggets in here that we can use for our daily life. And I've written here 3 wellness tools, spiritual wellness tools, I would like to say, but if you want to take the spiritual part out, wellness tools that you use during your process of healing. You wrote the book, right? So writing, journaling, same thing. Yeah. You repeated affirmations. Because when you left the hospital and went into the car, you start repeating things over and over again to calm yourself down.
Yep.
And the other thing you did was deep breathing, where you inhale, count to 5, exhale, count to 5. All those things are what we can use at any time that we're triggered. Yeah. And you will only know that these things work for you if you try them. If you try it, right?
Yep.
Tell us about your advocacy work for AFE. What are you doing with the foundation? How can we support?
Yeah, so right now, the book that you spoke about, Victory Cry, Living a Resilient Life After Birth Trauma, you can download that in the e-format, or you can get that at the bookstore. You can get it on Amazon, or if you're in Canada, it's on Chapters. So it started out as part proceeds to the AFE Foundation. So right now, and it has been for a little while now, a couple of years, last 2 years, all the proceeds from the purchase of the book will go to the foundation. I will continue to do my work. Coming up this Saturday is AFE Awareness Day, so I will be on my Facebook also talking about AFE and how you can help. And if this story has inspired you in any way, please feel free to go and donate whatever you can, because due to COVID, we have, and it's a charity foundation, there haven't been a lot of donations coming in. So I'm doing my part to see, because we still need to get donations to continue with research. Research is being done through the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. There's also need to help families in whatever various needs, and continue the education portion through Miranda Klassen, who is the president of the foundation. She goes around and she talks to the doctors and nurses and physicians about this, and see how best they can help in whatever way they can. So the proceeds from the donations that you make will go directly to the foundation, and I will continue to do my part. AFE's Awareness Day is on this coming Saturday, March 27th, and yeah, if you need more information, it is afesupport.org. You can go there, you can donate there, you can just read up more about it, share it, share, please share with anybody that, especially doctors, physicians. Did you know that this is key? Did you know that this is happening? Here's a patient that survived. You know, between 40 to 60% of mothers do not survive this. So that's a big number. Like, that is a huge number. Like, I can't stress that anymore. So we need to find out and get the research done to find out how we can prevent this, and so that, you know, we can all look out for, expectant mothers can look out for certain signs beforehand, to really have the survival rate go up.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I remember when I invited you to come on the show and be like, yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about your book.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Let's do it. You know, and I'm really looking forward to the work you're trying to do with AFE and bring awareness to it. And at any time, if readings by Simone can be of any assistance, feel free to reach out. You know, I think it is very important that we understand, you know, have a well-rounded understanding of the risk of childbirth.
Yes.
You know, yes, it's still important to be focused on the happiness of bringing a child into the world. You know, we have the baby shower, the gender reveal, all those cutesy things, but we also must be aware of, you know, when things could possibly make a turn for the worst. And I remember you mentioned in the book that you and your, well, currently he's not your ex-husband, but you guys had just started the process of the life insurance policy, and it didn't, you didn't get to complete the process before you went into labor. Isn't that wild?
I know. I came out scratching my head. I could not believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. And funny enough, I just started the process of getting a policy for myself as well. And there's been a little hiccup with the paperwork. But, you know, I was like, okay, Simone, you need to do something, because I don't want nobody setting up no GoFund for me to bury me up. You know, I mean, these are serious conversations that we have to have. And I remember when I called my older sister, and I was like, I need your information. She said, Simone, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting life insurance, you know? And she's like, oh my God, you know? But these things are important. And I also remember that I need to write a letter to her for her not to open it, with my wishes on what to do with my remains when I go the other direction, right? Yeah. But that is also another topic that families need to have about, you know, life insurance policy. And I was just moved by the fact when you said the process wasn't even completed, and all this stuff started to happen. Yeah. But, you know, our superhero is here. Eli is here with us.
Yes.
And that is all and you are here as well. Yeah. And we thank God for that.
Yes, thank you. I know. When I think back of that, you know, and when I finally signed the insurance with my friend Mark, and I told him about what had happened, you know, you know, when you just think that if you don't have these things in place, and who knows, it might have been a sign for me to like step on it, like we need to get this done, and I didn't even know in hindsight, right? But when you think of it, it's just like there would have been nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people don't like to have the conversation because it's just not one to have. They don't think, you know, who thinks you're going anywhere anytime soon, right? Well, we don't know when our number is up.
Well, it's 2020. I mean, like all of us are happy that we survived 2020 and we're here in 2021. So at this stage, we're like, listen, we're superheroes right now, okay? So if we can survive that, God willing, we're still in good health, you know, we can survive anything. Thank you, Misha, for sharing your story with us. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, well, go and put on your cape and go and get an insurance policy.
Yeah. I'm waiting for them to send me back the paperwork, and once they sign off everything, we'll get the process going. But thank you for joining us. Again, we have the book, of course, Victory Cry by Michelle Mcdonald. Her IG page is listed here, Michelle S. Mcdonald. Please go and follow her. Support AFP Foundation, and their AFP Day is this Saturday. It's this Saturday, right? That's coming, right? So, find Michelle also on Facebook. She's going to be doing some work around that this Saturday. Please support. If you can donate. If you can purchase the book, purchase the book. You know, and just do what I do, put like dog ears in it and make your notes. Michelle, thank you. And you have an amazing day and an amazing week. And we will be in touch.
Okay, thanks. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.